All right, guys, so I have a meeting today, so I was not able to be in class to finish the notes that we started yesterday together. Yesterday we were going through and defining the 4 different types of government that we were looking at: autocracy, democracy, oligarchy, and then anarchy. Remember that these are categories of governments, and that the categories of governments will have other governments that fit inside of them. For example, autocracy, the one that you see on your page right now. The most common types of autocracies that we see are monarchies and dictatorships. Monarchies being ruled by a king or queen. Dictators ruled by one single leader, usually taken through military control. Now, you guys should already have this on your large package size piece of paper and should already have this information from our reading done. So right now on your desk, I want you guys to make sure that you have the large piece of paper, the 11 by 20 sheet of paper with the notes from yesterday. And you also need to have the packet out that says who rules. And this is the one that we were reading from. So everyone take a moment to have that out on your desk, and I'll pause for a moment. If you do not have this out on your desk at this time, please pause until you do. When you have it out, then resume playing. Yesterday we talked about 2 different versions of the government, autocracy and democracy. You can see that I have put brief notes up here for you guys just to remind you some of the information that you should have written down. You see under autocracy I have monarchy, which says that their power is inherited. They're ruled by a king or queen. And then I also put there as a dictatorship, one leader, usually taken by military power. All right? So these are the things that we should have for autocracy. We also talked about democracy. Democracy, I want you to remember, is ruled by many. When we talk about democracy, we're talking about a civilization in which close to 100% of the people are involved with making decisions of the government. If we're looking at a single party controlling that government, that would be more of a ruled by the few, which would fit under oligarchy. Remember, we put notes about representative democracy and then direct democracy. All right, so the 2 different types of democracy that we are going to see. Representative democracy, we vote for people who represent us, and they make decisions in our behalf. They usually do it for a given period of time. When we talked about this yesterday, we talked about presidents, senators, and then House of Representatives, each which have a different length of term that they are able to then make decisions for us. The last one is the direct democracy. We talked about this as people voting on every decision. The problem with direct democracies is that they are slow and inefficient. If people need to vote on every decision that's going on, that takes time. It's not easy, and usually voters then end up becoming disenfranchised, it's called, because they vote too much. They think that their decision doesn't count for. All right, so those are the 2 that we reviewed yesterday. Today we need to talk about oligarchy and anarchy. So turn to the 2nd page in your packet of who rules. And I want you to see that part that says we, ourselves, and us. All right? And in this group, we're going to be talking about oligarchy. So on your notes right now, you should be writing down oligarchy. In our paragraph, it says, oligarchy is a small group of people who have all the power. All right, so remember, if we talk about a party or a group of people that are controlling the government, this would be considered oligarchy. I always like to write few next to this, all right, that a few people are in control of this. Oligarchy is a Greek word that means rule by a few. Sometimes this means that only certain people or certain groups has political rights, such as members of one political party, one social class, or one race. And so we're going to write that down below. We're going to write one political party, one social class or one race. For example, in some societies, only noble families who owned land could participate in politics. An oligarchy can also mean that a few people can control the country. For example, in junta is a small group of people, usually military officers, who rule the country after taking it over by force. So again, we're going to write this down. Junta, and this is a military force that controls the government. A junta often operates much like a dictatorship, except that several people share power. So this is the difference. Several people share power. And I want you to think back to this idea of when we say a few people are controlling the government, if several people are sharing the government, that means that there's a few. Religious rule also fits under this. So we're looking at a theocracy. This is a government that recognizes God as a divine or ultimate authority, or theo is a Greek word meaning God. In theocracy, religious law is used to settle disputes and rule the people. A theocracy can also be a democracy, a dictatorship, a monarchy. All right, in most cases that we're looking at is we see this as an oligarchy because it is the religious few who govern the people. And so that's why we're going to keep this under that idea of an oligarchy. In the Republic of Iran recognizes Islamic law, but Iran's citizens vote to elect their leaders. Modern theocracies are usually found in countries where the population is strongly religious. You're going to look at one tomorrow known as the Vatican City, that you will see that is a theocracy ran by the Pope. All right, we'll talk more about that as we go along. All right, so these are the notes that we should have for oligarchy. Again, I want you to make sure that you know oligarchy is controlled by the few. What we're going to be talking about is anarchy. Anarchy is defined as nobody is in control. All right? Or everyone is, depending on how you look at it. Sometimes the word anarchy is used to refer to an out-of-control mob. When it comes to a government, anarchy would be one way to describe the human state of existence before any governments developed. It would be similar to the way animals live in the wild, and so we're going to make a note of that. All right, so think about the idea of only the strong survive is the idea of anarchy. It would be similar to the ways animals live in the wild, with everyone looking out for themselves. Today, people who call themselves anarchists usually believe that people should be allowed to freely associate together without being subject to any nation or government. So we're talking about freedom from national identity. These people want to simply do whatever they want to do. There are no countries that have anarchy as their form of government. And I want to make that final note. There are no current anarchies in the world. All right. So we should have our notes done at this point. You are not turning them in. You will need to keep them for tomorrow to use in the activity that we will be doing. What I need you to do now that you have finished this is turn over Who Rules and identify the government. That's the section that it's called. It's called Identify the Government. And it says identify the forms of government that each country has or had. In order to do this, you're going to use your iPad. You're going to go to Switzerland. It says citizens elect representatives to sit in 2 different lawmaking assemblies, but citizens also vote several times a year to decide on laws. Citizens who vote to propose their own laws or undo laws passed by the representatives. All citizens may vote directly on these laws. So I want you to identify the different forms of government that are used here, and I would also like you to take a few minutes to Google Switzerland and the form of government to see what it has to say about it. I don't need you to write anything down, but I'd like you to go through each one of these: Switzerland, South Africa, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, Denmark, and Brazil. After you have finished those, turn the page over. All right, you have a true or false. Use what you have learned in the reading and in exercise A to fill out the chart below. And then I also want you to do the crossword puzzle at the bottom. That means that you should be busy for the entire period. If you did not finish the quiz on the blend space from Tuesday or Wednesday, please take time to do that now.